Welcome to our home. Welcome to our living room. Welcome to our lives. And welcome to the first ever episode of the Finding the One podcast. Are you ready, babe?
We're doing it.
When did this start?
Oh my goodness, I don't even know.
We've been talking about this
for a long time.
For a long time, yeah. I want to first start in sharing with you the purpose of the podcast. It's to help you find the one. And the trick is going to be that the one that you think you're looking for is very different than the actual one. At least that was our journey. And this particular episode is going to be about sharing our story and how we met. Because in many ways, when we share our stories, we all as human beings learn from each other. So we thought it'd be fun to share our love story with you. And we hope and think you're going to find some similarities. And at the end of the episode, we're going to answer some of your questions. So
here we go.
You ready?
Yeah. So I think that we're going to start with kind of explaining where we were both at, right? Before we came together, and the experiences and life lessons we had to go through to actually feel comfortable and ready enough to be in this relationship with each other.
Let's do that.
You want to go first?
Ladies first.
Oh, shit. Ask me questions.
Well, where did it all begin for you? If you, looking back, right, look at the moment of, my birthday.
Okay, yeah.
But look back 3 years from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it was 3 years, I think it all started in Oxnard, California. That's what I think it all began.
Well, that's 5 or 7 years ago.
I think that's where it started.
Yeah.
I want to explain.
Yeah.
What we realized when we looked back on our story was that there was a time in my life, I was still married at the time, but I owned a real estate office in Oxnard, California.
Which is so random, by the way.
Very random, very random. And I was only there for 2 years. I only owned it for 2 years. And Jen lived in London. So there was no way on planet Earth we could have ever picked this area if it wasn't for our soul's destiny, we feel, to have happened. But Jen decided to start a journey.
Yeah. So I decided I'm going to do a yoga teacher training. And I think if you've listened to our episode, I knew nothing about yoga. And I was just like, on a whim, I'm going to go do a teacher training. And it was in Oxnard, California.
Yeah.
Which is the tiniest little town on a beach, like 2 hours from LA. It's so random. Well, for me, that's actually a good place to start because that's actually where my healing journey began, when I discovered the practice of yoga and how powerful that was in my life. And that helped me heal in so many ways. My anxiety just kind of slowly started to pick away and transform who I was. But I also was I was actually starting another relationship at that time, which I was then in for 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was, what we discovered through timelines was that when you were in Oxnard, I was most likely in Oxnard. And if you've ever heard what we teach, like energy really is everything. And I believe that when we were both together in that area, we didn't meet. I didn't know you. I didn't know you existed. You didn't know I existed. But I truly believe that that's when our souls said, hey, it's time.
Sort your shit out. That's what they said.
Yeah, it's time to get this process going. So for me, it's interesting because right around that time, that's when I went through what I went through. That's when I went through the realization that I was unhappy in my relationship. That's when my affair started. That's when everything started to unravel for me. And not only in my outside world, but in my inside world, my My entire life, I had been looking for the one. I had been looking for this partner. And so if I'm honest, even while I was married, I could remember we would walk into like a wedding, and I'd be looking around, right? Because I wasn't in myself. I didn't have love within myself, so there was no way that I could ever have like or show or give love to a partner. I wasn't happy in myself, so there was no way that I could ever find happiness in a partner. And what I didn't realize started to happen was when all the chain of events started to take place, I was on a journey of, yes, meeting you, but first and foremost, meeting myself, finding happiness within myself, because you and I would not be here today if it wasn't for the fact that you and I found ourselves first. Would you agree?
Right. And I think what comes to me as well is, whilst you were in that process, I still very much was living out my programming, like in a relationship that kind of ticked all the boxes in terms of what my culture says is the right thing to do.
I think we should go into that.
Yeah, because I think this is something that a lot of people do unknowingly, just live out their programming of, well, my family and my society and the friends that I hang with, they all say you marry someone from your community, you get this type of job, you buy a home together, you have a kid, and then that's kind of it. So I was just doing that kind of completely unconsciously. I was just like, yeah, you'll do. I kind of like you, and you're in like the community.
Yeah, so you make good money.
You make good money. We'll buy a nice home together. You're coming with me. And then I got 3 years down the line, and when you actually asked me what was the moment for you that started everything, it wasn't yoga that came to me. It was actually when I taught San Diego Awaken, not the class. That was a moment for you. But I ended up doing Awaken online. And I was just finding time where I was alone. And I remember there was one breath work where I was lying on the floor, and I'd had some deep meditations before, but never like this. And I was lying down, and then all of a sudden my whole body started shaking. You know, in the movies when someone's lying down and is asleep and someone's trying to wake them up and they're like shaking their shoulders, you can picture what that looks like. That's all I heard. I was shaking. I felt like someone was shaking me, and all I heard was, wake up, wake up. When are you going to wake up? And I was like, oh no, I don't want to wake up. This is too easy. But I knew something wasn't right. So I came out of that breath work and I was like, oh shit. I just bought a home with my partner. We were in like a joint mortgage together. We were quite intertwined in our lives. I was like, oh, how am I going to get out of this? This is real bad.
So Awaken was the moment that
was
breath work.
That download of, Jen, wake the fuck up.
Right.
What are you doing?
Remember you said you saw like the Phoenix or like an angel or something?
Did I?
I remember you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually coming back to me now. Yeah.
Like the Phoenix rising.
Something. There was someone was there telling me, you need to sort this out, otherwise you're going to be in this mediocrity forever.
But baby, if we can be honest, like, isn't that, I don't know about you, but at that time in my life, that was practically everyone I knew.
Yeah.
Everyone I knew was like running in the program. Everyone I knew like was, I bring it up all the time, but it was like, like another candle on the cake of another year of being together, as if they were trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like 50 years of marriage.
50 years of marriage.
Miserable.
Fucking miserable. And I'm, abuelita, I love you, but I'm only bringing this up because that was my grandparents.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents showed me everything that I didn't want.
Right.
In so many different levels, but I think they were married 40, 56, something like that. And I was like, there wasn't happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know there wasn't real, like, because there was so much other stuff. There was so much anger and so much fear and so much, and by the way, I'm just speaking from the heart here, because this is what we as human beings think is relationship.
Yeah.
We as human beings think that relationship is just lasting another year. We as human beings think that relationship is just like getting along. We as human beings think as relationship is just having a couple of things in common and being able to like not have fights that are that bad. We as human beings think that relationship is hard work, right? Of course we do, because we think life is hard work. We think money is hard work. We think life is hard work. So of course, the relationship is just going to reflect to you what you think life is. And deep in my heart, I was like, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Well, that's definitely Relationships Are Hard Work was a program I was definitely running. It was you have to work at it and you have to stick it out. Because all my previous relationships, I always just like up and left. So everyone kind of said to me, Jen, you can't just do that. And they're right, you can't just do that.
Sure.
You can't not express how you feel, or you can do anything. But it's rough to not communicate how you're feeling and give the other person a chance to shift things and grow and work on things. So I had this thing in my head, you have to stick it out, Jen. Relationships are hard work. You have to communicate and you have to work it out with that person.
But deep inside?
But deep inside, you're like, I'm banging my head against a brick wall because I would communicate and I'd worked really hard on that communication piece, but then nothing would change. Or maybe it changed for a day. We all know that one where you have those big conversations and a month goes past and you're doing so good, and then another month and you're right back into it.
And the same thing.
Same thing.
I want to tell you my story leading up to San Diego, because I think it's a beautiful story. But I feel like we're on to something here. And I feel like, and I say this sending much love to your ex-partner, because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be you. And then you wouldn't be here with me, right? But there are so many things that we talk about that we used to deal with in old partnerships that we don't have to deal with anymore. And I really feel like part of this podcast is going to be, we're going to help people awaken. Like, we love you guys. So we're not afraid to tell you the truth, that I know what it's like to be in a relationship and to like deal with shit that I didn't like. I just didn't like. It's just, I was afraid to honor that truth within me. And you have no idea how many people send us messages like, I know deep inside. It's like, it's because you're living in fear, right? So, for example, like us, we're very much alike, which makes life really easy and flow, right? We don't waste any time arguing on things that most people argue about. And I have to bring up the keynote.
What keynote?
The vacation keynote.
The PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint. Could you please tell that story? Because it's an example of how you were not in congruent alignment with the truth of your heart. I love that story. I love that story.
So we like to go on nice vacations, right?
That's right. Define nice vacations.
A nice place to stay, just like a good vibe.
Right. We know what we want.
Yeah.
We know what we like. We know what we don't like.
Right.
And we do not settle.
We do not settle.
Okay.
So one year I wanted to take a summer holiday to Portugal.
Uh-huh.
And it was always so hard to get my ex-partner to book a holiday. And so one year I made a PowerPoint presentation detailing all the hotels in the area, detailing the pros and the cons, the cost, just to try and convince him to book the holiday. And I remember there was like one really nice hotel and there was one like in the middle. And because he didn't act fast enough on just like, yeah, just book it. Like when we want to do something, we're a bit last minute, but we're like, yeah, okay, just book it. Let's do it. And we ended up in the middle of the road one after all my hard work of the PowerPoint presentation, and it pissed me off. But do you know what's so funny is that it's not just having different taste of wanting to go to different hotels. Obviously, taste matters and values matter. But in that, it's the more important thing was I like to act on things, just do it.
Decisiveness.
Yeah, I'm very decisive and you're very, just do it. So that makes
I don't even want them. I just make
Danny would prefer that I just don't even tell him what I'm doing. And I just sent him the calendar link.
That's it. As a matter of fact, just stick it in the calendar.
Through your assistant.
Through my assistant, not through
Don't
me.
even tell him.
Don't even tell me. Yeah.
And then say, we're going on holiday next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
It filters into everything. It wasn't just picking holidays. It's what do you want for dinner? Where should we go on Saturday night? And it was always like, I don't know. You decide. I was like, oh, I decide everything.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about this a lot, but I think that is part of like healthy masculine energy.
I was going to say, yeah.
You want to be led.
Right.
Not all the time. You don't need a man. I get it all. Relax. Feminist movement. Calm down. But if we're honest, when you're in your feminine energy, you want to be led.
Mm-hmm.
You want decisions to be made.
Well, especially in your relationship life.
For sure.
If you run a business, and I would do that myself, I'd be working all day, making all the decisions all day, as was he in his business. But when it comes to personal life and coming back together at the end of the day, I do want my person to lead. Not everyone wants that, but I do. I want to drop into my feminine, out of my masculine of working and making decisions all day and creating, to be able to be like, okay, you make the decision now.
Yeah.
I feel like we've majorly diverted.
No, that's okay. I have to ask you, because I think that there's a lot of men and women out there that are relating to this. Like, what kind of feelings would arise when just the fact that you had to make a PowerPoint presentation and then you had to stay at the middle of the road hotel, which, listen, this is not about being bougie. This is just about knowing what you like, right?
Right.
What kind of feelings would arise in you? What would you start thinking? And then what did you have to bottle in if you were to choose to stay in that relationship?
It's frustration, isn't it? And it's also, it takes you out of your alignment. Because is settling the right word? But if you're settling, I suppose, for something that's not very you, then you can't feel like you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what you bottle down is essentially yourself. You.
The real you.
The real you. You don't have your essence, your sparkle, your glow, because you don't feel like yourself.
No.
You're just kind of doing what someone else wants to do and doing what someone else wants to do out of their conditioning and their patterns.
Not even their real them.
Not even their real them. So now you're doing a shit version of them. So how could you ever feel powerful, aligned, centered, calm, happy, in love?
Abundant.
How could you attract what you want to attract?
How could you attract a lot of money? Which, that's one of the things I feel like we want to talk about in this podcast, because it's like, The world has conditioned you to think that life is hard.
Mhm.
And we both are here to stand for the truest version in you that understands that life is not hard. We're finding ways to make it hard.
Mhm. Not consciously. I just want to add that.
Right. Unconsciously. That's right.
Because when we've found ourselves in hard situations that feel unaligned and don't feel like growth, we have created them, but we don't know we're creating them until we awaken.
That's right. That's right. Now, I want to know, right? I know what it means for me, but what does it feel like now to be with the opposite energy? Where it's like you're with someone that is in like flow, in alignment. What does that feel like?
I want to say two things because I want to add something else that was a major red flag in my last relationship that is a big one for people, and it was a major part of my healing journey after as well. But to answer your question is, it's funny because you said we're really alike, but in many ways we're actually not very alike at all, because you're very big picture and I'm very detailed. And that's funny because that's growth. That's how we grow together, because actually we're not that alike in some aspects. But in terms of our values being similar and our cause being similar and aligned and in union, it's just easy. Life becomes so easy when you find that person that you can flow with. How does it feel for you?
My example of the PowerPoint was arguing.
Well, I know.
Like, and I want you to share how you know. I want them to hear this. By the way, this is all about vulnerability, I am a very peaceful human being at heart. Like, I have, I think, a lot of chaos going in my mind when it comes to business and what I want to do and how I want to help the world. But as you can see, I like to live away from like society. I like to be by myself. I like to literally, sit on the couch and relax. I'm a homebody. And part of that is I don't like to argue. I don't like it. I don't find the need for it. I feel like it is a massive waste of energy, because in truth, whenever it is that you find yourself in a relationship where you're arguing all the time, what you're actually doing is two things. Number one, you live in a constant state of defending. Defending the paradigm that you live in, defending the hurt and the pain that you live in, and defending the story that you're living your life out of. And the second thing that you're doing is you're not listening. There's no room for listening. There's no room for hearing what your partner is trying to communicate to you. There can't be, because you're so stuck in your wounded self that your whole priority in life is to defend and protect.
Which means there's no room for growth.
Because
if you're arguing from up here, which we all know how that feels, to be in mind battle with each other, just trying to top each other.
Right.
You can't grow because you're not in your heart.
You can't be in your heart.
You're not in your heart.
No.
And so you're not actually doing what's best for either of you in that situation. You're just spewing out shit, basically.
And I'm going to go ahead and say it. You can't possibly be in love like that. Because real love is vulnerable. Real love allows. Real love has courage. Real love is able to say, okay, look, I don't understand what you're saying right now. But if it's your truth, it's true to you. You know?
So then it means something to me. If it's true to you, it means something to me,
right? Yeah. So it means that because I love you, I get to listen to you. I get to observe and absorb, and I get to filter it not through my defensiveness. I get to work. If relationships is hard work, it's inner work is what it is, right? Because I get to process it all and go, hang on a second, like nothing in me wants to agree with this perspective. Nothing, right? It's funny because we just had a situation earlier. Nothing in me wants to agree with this perspective, but I love you so much that I need to allow myself to honor the fact that this is your truth. And if it's your truth, and if I love you, then that means something to me. And as much as I want to fight it, and as much as I want to defend, and as much as I want to, protect myself, I have to surrender to the fact that I have to let go of the self, and I have to learn to listen to you and to listen to what you're feeling, right? That's real love. And so I didn't know that I was searching for that. I just knew that I was searching for a space and a relationship, and I had committed myself. I said, I will stay single for the rest of my life, but I will not live a life where I can't speak my truth, where I'm constantly afraid of arguing, and where I cannot have peace in my home. I won't do it. I won't do it. And I can't, that's not to blame, by the way, anybody else. I take full responsibility and full ownership for the fact that I didn't have the courage in myself to fully share and speak my truth. And we had to go through that. We had to learn that ourselves, because you were still traumatized from your past relationship, and I was still traumatized from my past relationship. And that was part of our healing journey.
And you asked me to say how I know that to be true when we do have disagreements.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's actually helpful to know about your partner's past relationship, because you start to understand what their trigger points are. And I think that's a huge part of emotional intelligence, to be able to identify a pattern someone else is playing out whilst you're in a heated or disagreement with them. So for us, it took me a long time to work this out when we would have a disagreement, because you would always say to me, "You're not listening to me." And I'd be like, "Dude, I've just listened for 15 minutes on everything you have to say. Like, I would say to you, how am I not listening?" So now when we have our disagreements, I say to you, I have heard everything you're saying and I understand, so that you feel
Validated,
heard, and acknowledged, because for you, that's a trigger point.
Yeah.
It's not just a given that I've heard you. So that's important. What are other ways that I know?
Communicating, like.
Well, yeah. One is defensiveness. So if I would say something, it would be like, you would just see like a different Danny. I would tell you, like a different Danny would just come across his face. And I'd be like, who is this person? Because most of the time you're very heart-centered. And when you're in your head or ego, it changes your face. So I can tell immediately. I'm like, oh, I'm not even going to bother. Until you drop back into your heart, I'm not even going to bother. Because we say things that we don't actually mean when we're talking from our mind. We've both said things to each other that are quite mean, that we don't actually truly believe, just because we're saying to say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I know you have a hard time communicating. So it would get to a point and I'd be like, what's wrong? Just tell me what's wrong. You get all like weird and awkward. You're like, just tell me. And then all this stuff that had happened in the week would like come out. I'd be like, why didn't you just say it then?
because I was used to not feeling safe and saying it.
Saying it.
Yeah. I'm getting better though.
So much better.
Like way better. Yeah. My ego needs the acknowledgement.
And then I just wanted to add, because I think this is when I would talk about this when I was single and I just left my relationship, this is a big thing for women, which is in my past relationship, I really struggled with affection.
You know what? Yeah, that's right.
Right? It was a huge deal for me.
It just feels like so long ago, but yeah.
So long ago.
Yeah, because now we're like
past it.
Yeah.
But I remember like 2 months into the relationship, and I was in it for 4 years. 2 months in, I was like, this dude just kind of like rolls over and goes to sleep. Like no hugging, no physical signs of love. And I was like, maybe it will get better. Maybe it's just a phase. But I knew deep inside that it wasn't right. So imagine doing that for 4 years of giving someone a hug and them not receiving it or not wanting it, kind of like pushing you away, or just trying to be loving to your partner. Eventually, imagine what I was like. Just like if we sat on the sofa, he would sit there and I would sit at the complete other end. That's not love. If you can't express love through your physical body, then it's not love.
Mm-mm.
And it leaves the woman, or it leaves anyone, feeling empty and really unloved. So then a huge part of my healing process was in those, I was going to say in those years, but in those few months that I was single.
I didn't let you stay single for too long.
Swooped right in.
Yeah.
I had to find love within myself again. All those things that I lacked in my relationship that I was so desperate for in my partner, I had to give to myself.
How did you do that?
Literally, I would like hug myself. It sounds so dumb, but it's what I had to do to refuel my tank and make myself feel worthy again. I would do things like, speak kindly to myself in the mirror. I would, like, you know, when you get out the bath and you put moisturizer on, I would do it, but like with love, not just like, It was like I would really pour into myself in the way that I just so desperately wanted to be poured into from a partner. And I believe that, well, I know that's a huge reason why I found a partner that does pour into me, because I was already pouring into myself and I knew what that frequency felt like. So I wasn't going to acknowledge or accept is the word, that from, I wasn't going to accept anything less, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I was already doing it for myself. So if someone's not going to do that for me too, that's fine. I'd rather be on my own because I got this on me.
It just goes back to, everything that I always say, which is the outside world is a reflection of the inside world.
For sure.
And I remember, babe, that, I feel like this is going to be 3 or 4 different episodes.
Yeah.
We haven't even got into the surface of the story yet. We have, but that's okay. That's okay. And I want to stay here. I want to stay here because I feel like there's a lot of women who unfortunately are with men that don't know. By the way, men, I'm not making you wrong in any way, shape, or form. I'm just, this is just a reality. A lot of men are less affectionate because they're disconnected from their own emotion, their own affection, right?
Their femininity, to be honest.
Their femininity, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
They've been taught from such a young age to block that part of themselves out, their feminine energy, that they just don't even know how. And it's from things like when your dad says to you, stop crying. In that moment, it's like, it's not safe. It's not safe to be in my emotional self, in my emotional body. So I must block that part off. but that has a huge impact on your relationships down the line.
Which, if you're a parent, please learn from that. Because if you're a parent, your role and responsibility is to provide a safe space for your children to feel whatever it is that they need to feel, for your children to explore whatever it is that they need to explore, for your children to try whatever it is that they need to try. And in that exploring and in that finding and in that trying and in that messing up and in the hurts and the falls and the disappointments, they find themselves. They find themselves. So instead of telling your children, hey, shut up and stop crying, you should actually be doing the opposite. You should be saying, go ahead. I'm here for you. Cry. Mm-hmm. Tell me more, because that's what we do in ceremony. Mm-hmm. In ceremony, we support each other in the releasing of everything that needs to be released. Hey friends, thanks for joining us here on Finding the One. We would absolutely love your support. And this is going to be our only ask. Please subscribe wherever it is that you're watching, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Subscribe and leave a comment and let us know how you're enjoying the show, because it truly, truly goes a long way.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
I think that's it. So that's all we want to tell them.
What are you handing over to me?
Well, I don't know. I'm just handing over the mic. But if you don't want to take it, I'm going to hand it over to you now to go out and just click subscribe wherever you're listening. We really appreciate you.
When I was going through that healing process as well, I don't think I had properly cried for 2 or 3 years. I just kept suppressing. It's like, everything must be okay. Because if you start losing your shit, everything's going to fall apart. So just keep it together. And I cried so much in those first few months after my breakup. And it wasn't from the breakup, I can't explain. It was crying all these things that I had not cried over in the relationship. Like the feeling of not being loved, the not being hugged when I gave a hug, the not being on the same page, all those things that I knew were wrong, I cried over them after. And because I allowed myself to cry over them, I healed them. They weren't buried inside of me, causing illness and stress and disgustingness in my body.
I know we're on the same page with this because I know we've both done this work, but I've said this before. When you're in a relationship with someone that doesn't know how to give you love, that doesn't know how to give you the freedom to speak your truth, that doesn't know how to give affection the way you would like to receive affection, that isn't in alignment with the person that you are, that causes a lot of unnecessary stress because your soul knows what it likes and what it doesn't like. Your soul knows what it needs and what it doesn't need. And when your soul is in a constant state of disarray because it's not receiving the love that it needs, eventually that stress turns into and manifests into illness. I have to ask you, was that true for you? We've never talked about this, but could you look back and see ways in which your body wasn't, I don't know if the word was performing or reacting or being or whatever, or when you were in that relationship?
Do you know it's weird? Because I don't actually think I've ever thought about it. But if I reflect on being in the relationship, I was always really run down. And it was only when I kind of towards the end of the relationship, when I started pouring into myself and doing things for myself, and I kind of detached from making it work and sticking it out, there was a part of me that had gone, and you just part of you leaves and you're like, oh, fuck it, whatever. And then I started pouring into myself. That's when I was in my most optimum physical health. So I've never actually looked at it in that way, but Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Because I was always run down and sick. Like I always had a cold or a headache. Those are my things. Either I'm congested or I have a headache. But I know for you, what you were going through emotionally majorly manifested physically, right?
Yeah, I was massively overweight. Massively overweight. I remember I was that guy that would go to the gym every morning at 4:30 in the morning. And just, you guys have seen the pictures. If not, let's actually share a picture right now. This is what I used to look like. And the wildest thing is that I thought I was healthy, because I went to the gym every day that, I was doing what I needed to do.
But isn't that just like being in the relationship for 50 years?
Yeah, you think you're happy.
You think you're happy. I'm doing it. I'm doing the relationship thing. I'm in a happy marriage.
Yeah. By the way, we are not telling everyone get a divorce. That's not no. We're going to provide you with tools and resources and structures to help you to, fix the relationship that you're in. Because a lot of people come to Awaken. It's funny. I actually today got a message from a couple saying, thank you. My plan was to file for divorce the morning that we were supposed to leave, but instead we decided to come to Awaken, and like we're in love now and everything. I didn't even tell you that.
I literally have goosebumps. That's so
yeah.
cute.
It's literally what happened. So yeah, we're going to give you guys the resources that you need to do this. But that was very much my reality. It was very much my reality. I want to talk to you about one more thing before I get into like my side of the story. Go.
No.
Well, I want to talk to you about societal pressure. Because we'll tell this story later.
I already know.
You already know what I'm going to say. But because when you knew the one was coming and there was a hint that it was me, what did you say?
Context. Jessie, our psychic, told me when I was just broken up with my partner, I was like in the shit. You know, when you're like going through it. It's like, you're going to meet the love of your life. He's coming soon. And at the time I wasn't dating because I was so focused on myself. I didn't want to date. But you were coming to London and we were just going to meet and hang out. But in my head, it will make sense later in the story. But in my head, it wasn't a date.
In my head, it was.
In your head, it was the date of a lifetime.
The date of my life.
And I remember lying in bed one night and it came to me, oh yeah, I'm meeting Danny in March or April. And then I thought, oh fuck, I hope it's not him. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. I think carry on with the story because we've gone so off track.
With which story?
Our story.
Okay, let's
like
carry
what you were going through and coming to the moment of meeting.
Well, and by the way, guys, I think part of what you love and appreciate about us is that we're so authentic and real. None of this is planned. We are literally free flowing. So should we end it here and then start a second episode, or do we want to just carry on? Casper, how long have we been? 45 minutes? We'll go a little bit more.
Okay.
Because this is the first one. So what I'll say to everybody is that prior to that meeting in San Diego, I knew I was about to meet the one. And I knew that only because I had done deep, deep spiritual work. It's public knowledge that I had sat with ayahuasca several times. It's public knowledge that I had sat with mushrooms several times. It's public knowledge that I believe every human being on planet Earth should do that, which is why we send everyone to Reunion, which, I mean, you want to change your life, just write down reunionexperience.org, go fill out the little form, and ask questions, and you'll see if it's right for you or not. But it's to the point that, to be honest, like, I would never have considered being in a relationship. As a matter of fact, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I would never be in a relationship with anyone. Hell, my penis is not entering anyone unless they had sat with the medicine.
Dear Lord.
True story. That's just because I know the way energy works. It's like, unless you release all of that, you're holding on to a lot of stuff. You're holding on to a lot. And so that was actually one of the signs where I was like, oh, it could be you. But anyhow, I was leading up to, us meeting in San Diego. We had been friends. We had been friends for 3 years.
We've told this story terribly.
Okay. Do we want to tell it again? That's okay. We had been friends for 3 years. Coming out of my very first ayahuasca ceremony, my very first week-long retreat, I'm in Costa Rica. It was the day, it was like we were getting ready for the bus. And honest to God, I'm going to tell the truth. I think I searched yoga babe, is I think what I searched on Instagram.
Which, number one, is awful that that's what you searched. And number two, awful that that's what I had obviously hashtagged.
That's right. Or someone hashtagged you.
Oh.
Someone hashtagged you.
Oh, okay.
So, so what I was crystal clear what I was looking for in my dream partner. Crystal clear. I'm telling you, I mean, when I tell you that you could live the life of your dreams, it's because I am now living it, and you are the embodiment of that. Every time and every day that I look at you, you remind me that the work that I do is real. Because if I was able to attract you, anyone can attract anybody, or anyone can attract anything, And so I used to always say this saying. I used to always say, I want someone that is beautiful, but that doesn't know that they're beautiful. And what I would mean by that is, like, I want someone that, is beautiful, but we live in a world today where, ladies, I hate to tell you this, but you've been bamboozled to think that your beauty is on the outside. And you put all of your energy and all of your focus and all of your emphasis on the way you look, on the size of your breasts, on the size of your lips, on the clothes you wear, on the purse you have, on the shoes that you have. Listen, which is great. I'm just here to tell you right now, if that's you, keep going in the journey, because pretty soon you're going to find out that doesn't mean shit. And so I wanted someone that, if I were to stumble on her Instagram page, wasn't like the typical girl, wasn't desperately needing my attention, wasn't desperately needing a man's validation, attention, and approval solely because of the way that she looked. I wanted someone deeper than that. I wanted someone that knew who they really were. And you can see that. You can see that on an Instagram profile. You could feel that energy on an Instagram profile. You could see and you could truly feel when a woman is aligned with her life, her purpose, her value, her inner world. And you can feel it when she values her inner world more than her outer world. And I swear to you, as a result of all of that, I've never told you this, I probably must have looked at 50,000 Instagram profiles.
Yoga babes.
50,000 of them. But it was like everyone was trying. Everyone was trying so hard to be seen.
Mm.
And I saw that. And it was like, when I saw you, I swear to God, babe, like, I'm picturing the picture and the moment, the picture. If you go on Jen's profile, scroll down all the way to the bottom, she's on this like light post, and she's doing this pose with her foot behind her like this. Show the picture. And she's looking, and there's this energy in your eyes like, I don't give a shit if you see me or not, because I see me, because I know me. I don't give a shit if you want me or not, because I want me.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't
Fuck with that.
You can't fuck with that. No, you can't. You can't. That is so rare. And to be honest, I felt like I was rare.
You are.
I felt like the man that I was at the time, the man that I was becoming, was one of the rarest men on planet Earth, because I had created a life where, yeah, like you say, anyone can be financially free.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted more than that. I wanted to have it all. I wanted to be it all, so that when I met the woman that was meant for me, it would be in alignment, And so I saw that picture of you, and I saw those pictures of you, and I instantly followed you. And I think a week later, I sent you a message. And I remember that you did something that most women today don't know how to do. You were nice. You were nice. And most women today have a hard time being nice, especially if they look a certain way. Because most women, when they look a certain way, they've been valued and honored and praised their whole life because of how they look. They don't have to be nice. They don't have to be nice. And you were nice. And I was like, oh my God, she's so nice. Like, it was rare. It was rare to see that. And our friendship began.
Mm-hmm.
And we were friends. We would just, how often would we chat on Instagram?
I don't even remember.
Throughout the 3 years.
Quite a bit, no?
We were like pen pals, basically.
We were pen pals.
Yeah.
I remember when we started talking, that it was like, I didn't have very many people in my life at the time that understood me or saw me, like really saw me.
Because they always saw your looks too. You that was part of your journey, is that?
Well, yeah, and because of the thick conditioning of
The world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the world, but my social situation. So when we started talking, and I had obviously, when I went to do yoga, that was something so different from anything my friends were doing, you have to understand, or anything that people in my culture kind of did. Like talking about auras and crystals and shit. They were like, what? You what? Like, you're working on like non-attachment. Like, what is that? I don't know how to do that. So when I started talking to you and you got me, and we got each other for that, it was so refreshing.
Mm.
And I think you felt that too, this kind of really easy thing.
It just flowed.
We did.
Honest to God. It was like, yeah, and if I'm honest, I was like in awe of you.
Oh.
I really was. Because I was, back then, as I was healing what I needed to heal, there was major insecurity in me. There was major insecurity in me. And truth be told, that insecurity came up in our relationship a lot. I had to work on that. But truth be told, I thought to myself, I would always think like, how could you be so beautiful and yet not lean on that beauty? And how could you be so kind and warm and funny and gentle? It's like, when I say what I say, I truly mean this. Like, hands down, you're like the greatest woman on the earth.
No.
It's not even close. It's not even close.
I'm just going to come on the podcast just to get the compliments.
No, it's why. No, baby, it's like this is why, forgive me. I'm gonna drop into my worldly self, my ghetto self for a little bit, but this is where like all you stupid people that constantly comment on the fact that like, she's younger than me, or whatever the case may be, is like, you don't get it. You don't get love, like, and you don't get you. Like, you are smarter, more intelligent, more emotionally aware, more spiritually connected than any woman I've ever met in my entire existence. I don't give a shit if she's 70 years old. You are wiser than any woman that I have ever met, even past her 70s. So then what does age matter?
Mm-hmm.
What does age matter?
It's very kind.
It's the truth. It's the truth. So yeah, all along it was that. And it's like, if I'm honest, my journey for 3 years, I was waiting. I was waiting for you.
Patiently.
You
Taught
me patience. You taught me, literally, you changed my life. You changed my life because you taught me the one thing that I had never had in my whole life, which was patience. Because to me, what I saw was, if that is available, it's either going to be that or better. Mm-hmm. I don't live in a world of like settling. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. I don't eat shit food. I don't settle in my groceries. I don't settle in my clothing. I don't settle in my home. I don't settle in my vacations. I don't settle in my... how on earth am I going to settle in my partner? Mm-hmm. So you fucked it all up for me. Honest to God. Because it was like, if that is available, whatever creature that is, in that package, it's either that or better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would date and I would hang out, but it's like, no one ever had a shot. No one ever had a shot. Because within 5 seconds, my brain, because I'm a heat, like what I want, I get. It's just what I want, I get, right? So I wanted you, but I couldn't have you. So it was like, cool. All right. Well, then it's like, it's that. So I would literally meet someone on a date, and within 2 seconds, I'd be like, not even close. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, even if it wasn't you, you gave me like the standard. Mm-hmm. You helped me to see that everything I ever wanted in life existed in a package. And so that was it for 3 years. And I started unraveling and I started getting signs. And I remember I would sit with the medicine and you would always show up in my journeys.
I know, I'd get these like random calls at like 2 a.m. And then I'd wake up the next morning. I'd be like, why did you call me? It's weird.
You were always in my journeys. But I would always go.
You would call me in your journey.
Yeah, one time I called you I texted you during a journey. It's too terrible. Don't ever do that.
Too terrible.
Too terrible. Don't ever do that. But, which by the way, that's a whole nother story, because I used to be the guy that avoided going deep in the journey, mm-hmm. which is why now, when we do a journey, it's like, you're going to lay there and you're going to go in, because I know that's where the magic is at. But yeah, it's like, and then, 2 years to the day before we made love for the first time, I was in a journey, and don't get all shy. I was in a journey, and the medicine told me. The medicine said very clearly, didn't say, I saw it. I stepped into my future. You are going to meet the woman of your dreams, and you're going to have a little girl together. And that little girl is going to be these words. I would never use these words in my life. That's why I know it was the healing culmination of your heart, your mother's heart, and your grandmother's heart. And I kid you not, baby, what happened was I had a story in my head that the woman I would meet would be from Colombia.
Because of the hair.
Because I always knew I was going to be with like a light brown haired, fair complected woman, right? I would see her. I've seen her since I've seen you since I was 12. But as a Hispanic, I'm not going to be with a white girl like that. No, that's impossible, right? So you're either going to be from Colombia or Venezuela in Latin America if you have that look. And for some reason, I just got fixated on Colombia. So I created a story. So literally, I remember after that journey, you popped up in my head. It was like you. And then I was like, yeah, but she's not from Colombia. This is literally so this is my story, right? And then I got fixated on,
Someone else.
Just because she was from Colombia. And to make a long story short, when we had been friends, chat friends for 3 years, and we finally met when you showed up at Awaken Virtually, and we were going to meet face to face for the first time because you taught yoga.
On a Zoom
call. Mm-hmm. You taught yoga on a Zoom call. And I literally was nervous as all heck all night long.
I think you should leave it there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's it. What a cliffhanger. Oh my God. You mean you're not going to let us say what happened when we met? No. Oh, you're going to have to tune in to next week's episode of Finding the One. Oh my God. See, that's why I'm marrying her. Look at how smart she is. Look at that.
So you guys have been sending in your questions, and what we're going to do is I'm going to pick one to ask you, and then you're going to pick one to ask me.
Okay, let's do it.
Are you ready?
Let's do it.
This one is deep.
Is it?
How can I stop attracting same people like my toxic father and people who just want me for sex?
Oh. This is a lot. Well, whenever you have a father wound, whenever you have for you to use the words toxic father, first off, I send you my whole heart. I send you my love, because I could just picture you as a little girl not receiving the love that you wish you would have received. And that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because I think of my little girl, So for you to use the words toxic father, what that means is that never once in your life did you feel safe. Never once in your life did you feel loved. Never once in your life did you feel able to rest. Never once in your life did you feel able to be still, be heard, be acknowledged, be seen. And so your entire life has been spent. Forget about here or here. Forget about connecting internally to your inner voice, your intuition, your wisdom, your safety. As a matter of fact, many of your chakras down here are just shut off. They're completely shut off from here down. You've been in a constant state your whole life since you were a little girl. As a matter of fact, all you know as a little girl is to protect. Because you were never protected. And all you know is to receive attention. Because you didn't get the type of attention that you wanted to receive. You didn't get loving attention. So what you are doing, without knowing it, is you are, from your mind, creating a life based off of the energy that you felt inside of yourself as a little girl, and based off of all you know to be, by the way, it's not your fault. A life where men only see you for your body, because they can't possibly see you for your heart, because you don't see you for your heart. And so I want to let you know you're not alone. I want to let you know that all of it can be healed. All of it, 100%. And I want to let you know that you can return to the safety of that little girl's heart, and you can transform your life forever. And yet I also need to let you know, because you're disconnected from here, you're living from here, and you think that the answer is going to come up here. You want knowledge. You want to know what steps to take. What do you have to do? And what I want to tell you is that the answer is going to come not in an answer, not in a step, not in what to do. Your healing is going to come in surrender. Your healing is going to come in vulnerability. Your healing is going to come in allowing yourself to do the one thing that is the scariest thing in your life to do, which is to return to your heart and to feel and to cry and to open yourself to your Heavenly Father and your Heavenly Mother, because your worldly father wasn't able to give you what your heart needed, but your Heavenly Father can. And it's going to require a deep spiritual experience. And it's one that Jen and I would love to guide you through. This is what we do. This is what we do at Awaken. You can do this in one of two ways. You can come to Awaken, join us. I think by the time this episode is released, we would have already announced that we are coming to London, we're coming to New York, we're coming to Miami, and we're coming to California. Or you can sit with the medicine. And if you'd like to sit with the medicine, then you can go to Reunion when you feel that the time is right. I send you my love, and I will let you know 100% you can heal all of it, and you will stop attracting men that only want you for your body, and you will find a man that loves you for your heart. How do I know that I can trust a man?
Wow. How do I explain this in language? You feel it. You know that you can trust them because you tap into your intuition and you feel whether you can trust that man. But the journey to connecting to your intuition is the journey that you need to go on, because you wouldn't ask that question if you were tapped into your true knowing and your true intuition. And for me, that was a journey of stepping out of my defensiveness and out of my toxic masculinity, which, as you said in your last question, that need to protect, that need to defend, that need to go out and do, and spend a lot of time connecting with the feminine side of myself, which resides more in my being, my creation, my body, my expression. And with that comes that buildup of that's my knowing. Am I receiving that information from up here in my brain, or am I receiving it in here, in my stomach, in my gut? Because that guttural feeling we have, that's a real thing. That's our solar plexus. That's our, you just twitched.
I burped.
Oh, that's our true knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that for me, as you just offered in your question too, was sitting with the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Because a huge message for me in the journeys that I've done is when I would ask source, but what about this, or what about this? The answer back was always, but you already know the answer. And 10 out of 10 times, I always know.
Mm-hmm.
And we all always know. So to come back to the question, how do you know if you can trust a man? You just know because you feel it in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And that gut feeling is always right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
But you got to reconnect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're up here, you don't know up here.
Let me give an example of the difference. It's if you have a man in front of you, exhibit A, and you're thinking, but he did this and he was like this and he was messaging her. And if you're going through all those ruminations and thoughts in your head, you're not tapped into your knowing. If you shut this off and you go, let's just be silent. And then you ask yourself, or you ask source, is this man right? Can I trust this man? You'll get the answer.
What you just said is you're tapping into universal truth versus your 3D truth.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that in the work that we do, that's what we want to teach all of humanity to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the questions you guys are asking, you won't have to ask anymore when you stop leaning so much on this world here, and you instead start to lean on that world up there.
And in here.
And in here.
Because that is here too.
That's right. That's it?
That's it.
All right.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Finding the One.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.